Friends, you're in the military with summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the Caribbean Sea and about the North Atlantic Ocean. According to media, yesterday the US authorities intercepted two oil tankers that were moving in this area. One of them was heading towards the Russian Federation. So according to information we have, this is official footage of the interception of the tanker BL-1 or Marinera by the US Secretary of Homeland Security. Here we can see the process, how special forces landed on the tanker and how the entire operation was taking place. And telling the truth, when this video was published, of course, first thing that came to my mind was that the world changed significantly. Later we received additional reports about the situation in this area, and the US authorities and the UK authorities confirmed that the United States of America wasn't the only state that was involved in this operation. Britain participated in the US operation to intercept a Russian oil tanker near Iceland. Defense Security Secretary John Healey announced this. Today, our UK armed forces demonstrated skill and professionalism in supporting the successful interception by US force of the BL-1 en route to Russia. This operation was part of a global effort to combat sanctions violations. So that was stated by the Defense Secretary John Healey. Furthermore, this morning we received additional updates about the situation with the tanker. So this article was published by different sources, by different media, and the Mariner crew turned out to be two-thirds Ukrainian. This is the title of the article. According to media reports, the crew of the Mariner tanker consists of 28 people, 20 Ukrainian citizens, 6 Georgians, and 2 Russians. The vessel was sailing under the Guyanese flag. However, during an inspection, the authorities of the South American country refused to confirm the tanker's affiliation with their navy. U.S. authorities refused to consider the Mariner Russian. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance stated that the vessel was pretending to be part of the Russian merchant fleet. Video footage of the hours-long chase of the tanker was also released. A U.S. Coast Guard ship sailed alongside the vessel for a long time, but was unable to either impede the tanker's progress or board it. So this is the situation when talking about these numbers. It's more Ukrainian vessel, more Ukrainian tanker than the Russian one. And anyway, when talking about Mariner, the situation is clear. We understand what exactly was happening there. Furthermore, we had a statement that, according to US authorities, this tanker was empty. But another and completely different situation is taking place with another tanker by the name of Sophia. This tanker was also intercepted by the US authorities, by US forces, and this tanker was intercepted in the Caribbean Sea. And the sources are saying that this tanker wasn't empty, but from the other side, this tanker also changed its flag to Russian, probably, at least to media, or maybe I'm wrong. But from the other side, the sources reported that this tanker was heading to China, and this tanker worked for a very long time between Venezuela and China. So this is not probably even a Russian problem. It's more something like the problem of China. Another important thing, during the previous 12 hours, the US authorities made lots of very important statements about the situation in the world. We can say it like this. Rubio announced that he would hold a meeting with Danish representatives next week to discuss the situation around Greenland. Other statements by the US Secretary of State: the first step is stabilizing Venezuela. We are in the process of concluding a deal to supply 30-50 million barrels of oil to the US. So the second phase will be recovery. The third phase will be transitional. Furthermore, we had another important statement about the budget. The President of the United States of America published an article in his social networks. According to him, the U.S. military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion, but rather $1.5 trillion. So the pro-Russian sources are saying that this is a not very good situation, because it seems that somebody is preparing for a very, very big escalation. Now let's talk about Ukraine. We have lots of very interesting updates. The Orthodox Christmas, the period of Christmas holidays is about to finish on the territory of the Russian Federation. And during the previous 24 hours, the Russians began attacks through Ukraine with drones and missiles. And the sources are saying that Russians during the previous 24 hours were attacking the Dnipro region and the Zaporozhye region. And later we start receiving very interesting reports from Ukrainian authorities. Emergency power outages are possible tomorrow due to the bad weather. So as you can see, the Russians began bombing in critical infrastructure of Ukraine right before bad weather came. Due to heavy snowfall and ice, unscheduled power outages are possible. The first deputy prime minister warned about the drop of temperature at night to -20 by Celsius, during the day to -10 by Celsius. Furthermore, the situation in the Dnipro region is critical. The Russians were attacking the area of the city of Kryvyi Rog. I would like to remind you that there is a power station in this area, one of the most important power stations that Ukraine used to supply the entire region. And during the previous 24 hours, we received lots of articles. Emergency power outages after today's strikes on Zelensky's hometown of Kryvyi Rog. That was stated by different sources, and here this is the video that was published also from the city of Kryvyi Rog. And here we can see the moment when the Russians attacked an object of the critical infrastructure, and right after this attack, power outages secured. Furthermore, we had a lot of updates about the entire Dnipro region. The official Ukrainian authorities published an article where they were suggesting people to make a reserve of water, and this is a very difficult situation. If you currently have water at home, make a reserve. There are no forecasts regarding the restoration of power supply. That was stated by the Dnipro regional council. Furthermore, we had a very interesting article published by Russians. Total blackout, all combined heat and power plants and substations in the Dnipropetrovsk region have been shut down. The Dnipropetrovsk combined heat and power plant is emitting strange loud noises. It has been shut down due to an emergency after a series of flares. Prior to this, there was an alarm and a series of drone attacks. In Dnipropetrovsk, there is no power or water. Even in hospitals, the restoration time is unknown. In Kryvyi Rog, there is no power or water. Dnipropetrovsk region stock up on water. The restoration time is unknown, stated Lukashuk, head of the regional military administration. So this is the situation in this area, and when talking about Dnipro region, this is exactly the territory that currently suffers huge problems with energy supply, and this territory is a very important territory for Ukraine because, as you understand and as you know, the main the main supplies, military supplies first of all, go exactly through this area when talking about let's say the situation in the Zaporozhye direction or around the Dobropolye direction. So everything goes exactly through this area, and if there is a blackouts and problems with energy, electricity, this means, and if the Russians, let's say, are able to to make the situation last for another 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, and due to bad weather conditions that are ahead of Ukraine, this means that this situation can force Ukrainians to leave the entire Dnipro region, let's say further in the western direction, to find a safe place where they can survive and to live during the winter period of time. And this situation with the Dnipro region can lead to complete collapse of the entire Zaporozhye direction, not just of the entire Zaporozhye direction, but also of the Dnipro direction and of course of the, let's say, Kharkiv direction, Kharkiv southern direction. Because without people, without industry, without plants, it will be very difficult for Ukraine to change the schemes, change the military supply chains and so on. Because the city of Dnipro and the city of Zaporozhye are famous for their industry. There are lots of plants, lots of commercial organizations, lots of manufacturers who produce weapons, who produce things for the military and front needs. And if a blackout take place here for a very long period of time, this can lead to very huge problems for Ukraine along the line of combat contact. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the eastern Zaporozhye direction. According to information we have this morning, as a result of offensive operation, the armed force of the Russian Federation managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Bratske. So we haven't adjusted the map because the video was published right before we started making this video, but here we can see how exactly the clashes for the settlement of Bratske were taking place. In this video we can see artillery strikes, aviation strikes, FPV drone attacks, and in the final part part of this video, we can see the Russian flag raised in the most western part of the settlement. So based on this video, we will adjust the map. We believe that the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will also confirm this information. So we will adjust the map, something like this, and we will add these territories under complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. And according to this report, this is the fourth settlement on the Ukrainian side of the river of Gaichur in the northern part. During the previous days, the Russians improved their position significantly around the villages of Zarechne, Pishane, Gerasimovka. Today, the Russians secured the settlement of Bratske, which means that the Russians are about to begin their major or even full-scale offensive operation deep inside of the Zaporozhye region, with the purpose probably to improve their position significantly through the southern part of Ukraine. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Novopavlovka direction. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded. This information was provided by pro-Russian sources. According to them, the pocket to the south of the settlement of Novopavlovka was almost cut. The Russians are maintaining the lines, they're shortening the lines, and are getting closer and closer to the day when the settlement of Novopavlovka would be completely captured by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Now let's talk about the Siversk direction, about Siversk-Slaviansk direction. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes were recorded. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. The pro-Ukrainian sources published this video where we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians through the settlement, through these, let's say, territories to the west of the city of Siversk. One of the geolocations was geolocated, and one of the episodes was geolocated. This is the moment when Ukrainians were attacking Russian soldiers, and this episode took place right exactly at this point. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map, so we see that the Russians continue offensive operation. It's still lots of time to get the Slaviansk power station, but the Russians are moving exactly in this direction. Another important video is coming from the Kupiansk direction. This morning, pro-Russian sources published this video where we can see how Russians were raising their flags through the settlement of Podoli. I would like to remind you that several days ago, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that the settlement of Podoli was captured by the armed forces of the Russian Federation, but just only this morning, pro-Russian sources and the Minister of Defense published the video where we can see Russian soldiers through the settlement of Podoli with flags. So during the video, there were just two episodes when Russians raised the Russian flag. One of them was raised in the most west-eastern part of the settlement, the second one in the southeastern part. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map. This is the situation by the end of the 7th of January, and this is the beginning of the 8th of January. So the situation is still very complicated in this area, so we still don't know for sure what kind of what territories are under control of Russians, what territories are under control of the armed forces of Ukraine. So that is why we'll keep this mess until we get better clarifications of the situation. Another important thing is that Ukrainians began preparation of the second defense layer in the Kharkiv direction, right to the west of the city of the river Voskol. So the sources are saying that the that Ukrainians have finished the preparation of this defense layer, and this defense layer will serve with the purpose to slow down the Russians if they decide to attack further in the western direction towards the Pechenegi water reservoir. So it seems that Ukrainians managed to prepare the next defense layer in the Kharkiv direction with the purpose to slow down the Russians. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.